Test. Yes. Welcome, Fuji. Good to see you. Let's wait so we give people some time to join, but interesting movements again. Welcome as well, Arnold. Hope you had a great weekend. Welcome as well, Kijos. Good to see you. Let's see what. So all assets making wild moves after this weekend, and now the alleged peace talks. But yeah, it's Trump, so no idea what his words are worth anymore. I'm working in the garden again. Yeah, you have your own garden, so that's it's super cool. So we are pushing higher on the after the New York Open. It's looking pretty strong, but yeah, we'll dive into the exact action in a minute. See which range, bro. Best short range. DTC. Well, I will go over my few. Well, I will just start right now. So what we had is since last week, well, at least past few weeks, we have been in this range low, range high, tap 1, tap 3, and then we broke back in the range, kind of creating that or confirming that model 1. However, as said also last week, I'm still a bit doubtful that this is the exact replica. It feels a bit too easy to do exactly the same as here. So right now there are basically two ways how to view this. Either this is the 1, 2, 3. This was our deviation above the range high. This is our break of structure. And price also accepted back in the value area high. So if we pull the value area high from this low to the high, then you can see that the value area high was right here, accepted back under it. And also if we extend it to the full, price accepted back in the value area high. So normally that means that this is your confirmed deviation and that you will make a move to value area low and likely to the other side of your range. However, it's a super crowded idea in my opinion and a bit too easy. So the other way, which could trap a lot of people, is that we look from this market structure low, for example, and with low. Let's make it black for my autism. That we have low, high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, and that this is basically the uptrend, and that this right here could potentially be the local higher low for the higher high, for the move into new highs. So basically that are the two scenarios that are possible and that I am willing to play. For now, we have that move into the POC of the range where we had a local kind of 3-drive move. And then we had the news event. So definitely going to be a super interesting week. And then like last week, we going over a little bit over the price action because it followed the plans pretty nicely where we had that first at local range breakdown right here. Then we had the 1, 2, 3 drive lower, took the long. Then price came into that range POC right there as expected. And then also at that 1, 2, 3. And then I said like it's likely that we bounce from here, go for that range retest for potentially lower high. And then what was likely was like that this was potentially our range low and this is our range high. So if we look at it, price more or less also followed that plan. Because if this was our range low, this is our range high. And we see this as our tap 1, then it made a wick below it, but it closed back within. So then this is tap 1, this is tap 2. We can extend the range to the tap 2. And then price, like here was a little, this could have set people on the wrong footstep because this is 1, 2. If you count this as 3, then it was a field model. But if you ignore this point and say that this is your 1, this is your 2, then this move, this was the 3, stayed within your deviation threshold. So based on that, you could see this as a 1, 2, 3, model 1 with the local buy side liquidity. This one was a bit nasty, but then you see once again that if you fully trusted the chart, that this was a long setup, basically. I did not trade it because it was weekend and yeah, a lot of uncertainty. But basically we had I was doubting to go long this morning when I saw that we had, what was it? I saw this potential 3 with that move down yesterday night. And from there we actually had a local uptrend from here, low, high, high, low, high, 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 low. And then here we had a nice push where we left demand behind. So the moment we tapped into that and held here, I was looking at it, was like, it's not looking too bad with that demand mitigation. But yeah, it was too late. And then we had that mega pump when Trump announced his news stuff, which has caused a lot of assets to move much higher. So right now we are in a super interesting situation, basically, where if we just ignore this right now, price is already taking like this local liquidity, and then from above here we have like a, what is it, a 45-minute supply zone just above, but then above that this are all just gaps, so there's not much holding price up from there. So if we saw this like a range, the price is now taking out the local range high, and we have some sell buy side liquidity right there, so a reason to move into here. But from here it can be a super quick move back into 74k. And as said multiple times last week, I think if we go for the obvious retest here, then we break the fractal of the former move. So if we're gonna get the bearish week, then I think we're not going much higher than here. So this is a zone where I expect us to reverse from if we get the bearish week. If we get above here, then I think we can push higher, potentially into new highs as well. Because if we compare it to the last range, which we have done, and also the reason why I was careful, here we also had that aggressive move down, and then we potentially, or like basically only went lower and had some very local redistributions, but price just showed a lot of weakness and continued lower, lower, lower. So here price never gave that retest or anything. right now we are pushing higher. So this is already kind of breaking the former fractal. Which is, yeah, like playbook is pretty difficult to execute also since this move is super strong. However, I will not be surprised if we go higher. So if we look at internal structure from the top, then let's look at 1 hour. So, okay, let's look at 4. On the 4 we have basically high, low, lower high, lower low. So this is our 4-hour structure, which price is trying to break this, and I think highs are next. And we can, like the 1 hour flipped right here. And this also created range demand. So basically you have low, lower high, low low, lower high, low low break, which means that this whole zone is your range demand. So if we retrace into that level, that is technically for buying, and then I will refine it more to this last candle. So this is a break, this is trying to break on the 4 hour. Then we have local upward structure. We basically on the 50-minute now have high, higher low. Now on the way to higher high. So you can keep an eye on your upward structure. Just here. And then watch if you see weakness. Because this is our local high. So you could say this is your early range. So if you stay within the deviation threshold, you could look for potential exhaustion into these levels. And then if you get like a 3 drive, that's a clear sign of weakness to potentially try short. But I'm not too much in a hurry to get into a fresh position. I would have liked to get the long here, then I would have been in a safe position, but right now a lot can happen. So if you don't have a super clear edge, then I rather wait till things are obvious than to just shoot some bullets here because I want to be in a position. That's the wrong way of thinking. And what we have is we have the daily low. Is super strong for the day. So our daily low is right here. And that's also our weekly low. So if we look at the statistics, then we are potentially already creating a strong weekly low. Let's see, is this up to date? It doesn't. Let me reload it. So it's going to be a super interesting week with a lot of different outcomes. Either this is going to be the retest for that bearish idea. Then let's see what the fib levels, if we take this swing high to this swing low, see if we have fib confluences. And then the 0.618 is just located above this local 45-minute supply. And the like 7.2 to 7.8, which is the optimal reversal level, that is the supply before we had that massive breakdown. Okay, let's see what the stats. Like for the daily, the stats, daily low is super strong, but we also made a very big move already. So for the daily, not telling too much. But since we already made quite a big move on the weekly, also here it's already stating that like 17% of the weeks took out the weekly low based on distance. So based on that, this could be a strong low already. However, it's hard to say because what are Trump's words? Like if Iran starts nuking or like bombing them again, or escalates, then the mouse. Then everything then that news-driven pump can reverse also very quickly, and then it looks horrible out of nowhere. So it's gonna be a super hard week, but also very, very interesting. Okay, so what I also want to show, like during these conditions when market is like super headline driven and everyone is watching, especially stocks and gold and stuff, then I'm almost only focusing on BTC and maybe ETH, but not really interested in other coins because they will just follow BTC. So if BTC pumps further, they will also follow. If BTC dumps, they will also dump. So then, in my opinion, it's more just following BTC price action will tell you the best signals instead of the altcoins. But if we look at the order flow, then last week when we were trading here, then I showed that we had the daily POCs. So that are basically based on time, price, opportunity, TPO charts. That's the POC where price spent the most time and then did not retest the level. So for example, today we have the daily POC untested, so that's often acts as a magnet and also as support. When price was here, we had multiple levels below us. So then there's a reason for price to take that out and then go higher again. So last week we took out all the levels to the downside. And then you can see that below our low, there's basically a huge gap till around 64k. So based on that, there's not much reason for the market to go much lower because most levels are already cleared. Right now on the upside we took out this POC, a poor high, and then we have a gap which is around that breakdown level and a big gap lower. And on TPO charts, price almost always takes out the gaps. So if we translate it to the chart, we have one below and one close to the highs. So that's around, the up one is around here, this level. And then on the downside, it's basically the green factor. So likely that sooner or later, price is gonna travel towards this level, which is then a super interesting POI for potential trades, and this level. So that are the main POIs. So let me put my alert a little higher. Which means that if price retraces into these levels, then you want to see buyers step in and defend this. If you get a full retrace with a super deep pullback into this demand, that's already showing weakness. And if we get here, you have weakness, then it is worth a shot. But in my opinion, if price range is too long here, it will only increase the probability of a break higher. So a lot of different POIs, and it's very hard to now say like I'm gonna short here, stop there and target new lows, or I'm gonna long here, stop here and target those highs. In my opinion, it's people telling you that this will work or that other one will work. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. You have to see what happens from here. So is price now stalling after taking this buy side liquidity, or do we get like a local range here and then further upside? It will depend on what the price does. Then if we look at the heat map, and also here higher, there's not too much. We have some liquidity resting below the lows right here, but most liquidity was already taken during the weekend, which was also that sell side liquidity trail where we talked about last week, which was basically starting from here up until here. This was a lot of sell side liquidity, and price took out like almost all of it before reversing. So right now I wouldn't be surprised if we get a range from here till maybe here, and then instead moving between these levels. Also, if we look at the bigger picture, because right now people see that it made a big move, so our usual feeling is that we need to be in a trade because it's making big moves, and what if it goes without us, stuff like that. But if we look at where are we in the chart, then price just came out of the POC and now at the value area high. So technically this could be a rejection level. And what you often have is if you accept back in your value area high, which, or at least in your value area, is this zone here, with your value area high right there, value area low right here. Oftentimes price spends a lot of time in the value area. So right now price is at the extreme. So we're gonna see how price behaves here, but if it moves above, then comes back below it, then I think it's a high chance we're just gonna rotate between like the value area low right here and the value area high right there. If price can hold above, let's say here, then that's potentially showing a lot of strength, because that means that we are accepting back above the value area. And then this move can potentially just be seen as a higher low, a deviation, and then if you get back above your value area high, we could search for new value, which is probably then new highs. So a lot of if this, then that, but that's often how trading works. So it's gonna be super interesting trading week, and I have to see what, like, let's quickly look at the other assets. So we had that local range we were watching last week, this mini range, which was the Model 1 distribution, and then after that price dropped 18%, taking out all this sell side liquidity. So if you see how price moves up here, this is all just sell side liquidity. So this is all like a snowball effect. Once price starts taking it out, it can give a really fast move down. So price took out all this sell side liquidity, and then I had a demand zone right here, and I believe price tapped into it. Yeah, like it's this last move, high, higher low, push up, leaving that imbalance little zone right here. The price tapped that literally to the cent. Let's see. Yeah. So here you see that tap into it, the wick, and then a strong buyback. And right now price is accepting back in the mega range, which is basically this range high, range low. And this is also the deviation threshold. So you see that red line right here with the demand. This is like the perfect tap of the deviation threshold into demand. And now price is going back in the range, in which you can watch for this potentially being in a high time frame tap 2 of your range low. For that you need to accept back in your range, hold here a bit, but then you can watch for model 2 or model 1 creations. Should not forget that our internal structure is pretty bearish. Basically this. So this is a super important level. This is the 6-hour lower high. But on the lower time frame, we clean 4-hour fresh demand created. So alert in that zone. And then this could be like, if this is the second tap, then it's going to be a super long range, because the distance between tap 1 and tap 2 is like 50 days. So oftentimes the distance between the taps are more or less the same. So based on that, you could say that this is maybe going for there and then slow pullback. And then this could potentially be a mega range in the making. So interesting chart to watch. I like to play my ranges, so for that I'm interested to see the reaction if we pull back into this demand, where this is like the more refined demand we can watch. There, and this is super clean supply. Also because here you have basically high, higher low, higher high, bearish break. So from left to right is your bearish break with a super clean imbalance. So this is a high probability supply zone. So I'm basically gonna wait patiently for price to reach this zone or this zone and then watch for the reaction there. So do we get up and then show weakness towards that level, break, then I'm interested in shorts there. Or if we do the same into this demand, then I'm looking for longs. For now, a lot of volatility. Super clean demand is it as well, by the way. We have like high, high, low, aggressive bullish break with this. Now we can already see that you have some early signs of potential 1, 2, 3, although it's pretty aggressive. So this could also just flip higher. We can watch on the lower time frame. Or you have low, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. This potentially could be a 3 drive where you then get into demand and then move higher. It's a pretty interesting chart, but for now this is pretty vertical. But super clean levels to work with on gold as well. Then quick look at, let me quickly look at the chat. Bro, aren't those spikes above the last order block you marked just liquidity? Are those spikes above the last order block you marked just liquidity? This one. This is just liquidity indeed. So either you reject from this supply. If you start closing above it, then it's super likely that we take these highs and then I think new highs are on the way. Yeah. So we have the imbalances right here, right below it. So if price is intended to go up here, and I expect it to fill those imbalances, then maybe tap this supply and then get a strong reaction from it. If it doesn't, and it keeps stalling here, then I think it heavily increases the probability of this buy side liquidity being taken. And then I think this was just the higher low for the higher high into new highs towards potentially 80k. For now, this is like extreme local liquidity. So this liquidity. So also have an alert there. But it could also be that this was just like the liquidity drill right here. And then we have local supply right here. And it's Monday, so we should know that a lot of times the weekly high, the weekly low or the weekly high gets printed today. And since we have such a big move, we can already look for potentially the high or low to be formed. Then the ES, because market is looking like here, this was rolling over. It still looks like this chart. Normally I would say I don't chart shitcoins because this looks like 1 minute illiquid shitcoin, but it is the the S&P 500. But price took like liquidity below these two lows, where a lot of liquidity was resting, and was losing the range of last week. But probably Trump saw that and his rich friends had to be saved. So he announced it, and price shoot back into the range of last week, which we can see here. This previous weekly high and then previous weekly low was right here probably. Yeah, Friday we closed right there. So this horizontal is super important. The price now came back into it, potentially creating a deviation below the range, although it's a super deep deviation. And this is a news driven move. So often price likes to at least retrace a good part of it. But then we have to watch from like, was this just a continuation of the downtrend, lower high, lower low, spike, lower high, lower low? Or is Trump real, and are there maybe true talks about de-escalation and stuff? If that's the case, this could or should be the low. And then you can always watch for like, what are the fib levels from this low to that high. And then you want to see a lower high be formed. And that's aligns nicely with the demand. It's also created here, range demand, sell, aggressive buy. So this is where buyers will defend their positions, aligning nicely with the fib levels. So if this is intended to reverse, then you want to see like the higher low be formed in this region. But also here, yeah, hard. You don't always need to know perfectly what's going to happen. But for now, this is super clean supply, resting just above. Put my alert a little lower. And this is super clean demand. So basically stuck between supply and demand with an aggressive move. So what I then often want to see is either weakness into that supply and then look for shorts, or just wait for what is often this price. And then you have your range high, range low, and then look for price to deviate your range low for longs, basically model 1, or do the same at the highs. And the direction of this will also impact crypto. However, crypto has shown crazy strength compared to the other assets. So if this is the S&P is gonna reverse higher, then I think this could explode, because it seems like sellers are getting out of coins slowly but surely. Welcome to everyone in the chat, by the way. Let's quickly look at the lower time frame. Like, a lot of buying was happening in that push, and here you can also see that gap. So a lot of times price will fill those single prints, and that's where you want to see buyers step in to create a higher low and defend their positions. If not, then it can also be just a full retrace. But we can look at what exactly happened. So during the weekend, we saw that longs were building positions. And during the push, they all got closed more or less. So this could very, very well be barren, or at least some insiders that were building positions over the weekend and started closing them all exactly during the news. Because normally you see shorts adding or longs adding when the move comes, but right now it seems like they knew exactly when to enter and when to get out of their positions. Then shorts have been more or less neutral during the weekend, and spot has also been slowly buying and is still buying. So that looks pretty good. And then for now there's not too much positioning. Like, normally with the volume bubbles, which are delta bubbles, by the way. So you can see heavy delta at lows or highs. But right now, over the weekend, was some buying right here at the low, the absolute low. And then a lot of buying and selling happened in that first move up. But overall, this looks pretty strong, which is why if we look at the gap, then that's basically from here till here. Let's make that a bit lighter. Let's start. So if price is going to retrace towards these levels, then this is where you want to see buyers step in. And this is also where I would be super interested in trying a long, purely based on the fact that if we're gonna trap a lot of people, then this is likely already our low. I think if we're gonna sweep out these lows, yeah, then we likely go much lower towards these stacked lows. Here we have these liquidity points, which are not taken, and we already bounced from the POC. So I think that if we get more relief on the markets, that the low here is already potentially our weekly low. So I'm interested in trading at both sides, but for now, not in any position, which is often during Monday. Like often, I like to wait for Tuesday and then get some sort of a good bias. For now, I don't have it. Then quickly to ETH, because this chart is even more interesting. Because this one gave that super deep move out of the range, basically giving a range breakout, where I was looking for the RIMC potential. However, then during the weekend, price made a deep move back, taking out almost all of this sell-side liquidity, getting back into the value area high. But then here, it basically tapped exactly the VWAP from this low. Tapped it and then went higher. And it even gave like a local tree drive where you can see this as your tap 1, tap 2, tap 3. However, it was a bit harder, hard one to play because you had, let's see, delete. Let's clean up the chart a bit. We have range low, range high. I like also to see, was it a trade I should have traded? Deviation threshold, so you have tap 1. Let's mark that out. Tap 1 at the low, tap 1 at the high. Then tap 2 stayed within your deviation threshold. And then accept it back in the range. So that's a valid tap 2. Oh, right there. Then you can extend your range to the tap 2. And then this is our tap 3. So you can already see that the way price is moving into the tap 3, that's hard to play. Tap 2 also had no structure. So then basically from, no, it was super hard model to trade. You have no structure into your third tap. So then price, it took out like extreme liquidity. And that would have been the only way to, it made a new low. Which was only valid on like not even 3 minutes. And it was on a Monday morning. So the only way I would have traded it is because it created pretty clean demand right here. Where you had that push above, clean imbalance. Then price came into that with low, lower high, lower low. There gave the break. So this was the bullish break. Then because you had tap 1, tap 2, tap 3. At this moment, it could have been a valid trade, to be honest. because you have a super clean invalidation, which is your third tab. So then you can just say, like I use that third tab or even this mitigation, and then target the local range high right there, which would have been a 3R. So it could have been a trade, but a hard one to catch. But it's always good to look back and then see, was it a valid trade, yes or no? And then what price is doing right now is that it is retesting the range high. So this is super interesting level, where we have range low, range high, tab 2, kind of tab 3, and then you move back above. So basically this is the deep deviation, then this whole zone is your range high. And since price accepted back in the value area high, it's either gonna reject here and then go lower, or if it goes above here, then this is likely level everyone is looking to short it. But then I would personally be more interested in a move higher. So also ETH, like bulls can make a strong case right here that this is a deviation. This is simply a range high retest before lower. And the bulls also have a case where they could potentially say the same as the BTC. On the overall trend, this is just trending up. And if this closes back above this former range high, so right here, then this could just be a trend continuation setup to clear the imbalances resting here, for example. So definitely a super interesting week, where a lot of people will probably say bulls are back, bears are back, everyone is gonna scream super loud. And our job to just wait for some clarity, which will eventually always come. And also during these times, a lot of people zoom in and are scared to miss out on moves. But just remember that this is super headline driven, and that likely most people trading right now are gonna lose. So if you don't lose, you also win. So you don't always have to be in the market. Let's see, question from Arnold. Didi, why do you replace your range increase from tab 1 to the tab 2? To adjust my range, which sounds logical, of course. But if this is your range and you move up from high to low and then tap mid range, you have your range high right there, range low right here. And the range is basically valid when you tap your mid range. And then you can watch for moves that stay within your deviation threshold, which is at the red line on the lower dot. And the moment you get back into your range, this can be validated as your tab 2, the new low. And then I adjust my range to that tab. And then I know that the deviation threshold also lowers. So then you can watch for example, for the model 1, right here, if it then accepts back in the range, then this is your valid tab 3. So then you know that because price is taking lows, your range widens, in which this move can still be a range rotation to the high. While if you keep your range at the first tab, then this can give you the sign that you have a range breakout and that you don't expect a lower high for low low, for example. So I purely do it to adjust my range and see if it's still valid from a range perspective. Yeah, ETH is super interesting. Like this high is also an important high, so I'm gonna put an alert there as well. From a liquidity perspective. Good for the bind and body. Okay, let's look at the ETH levels on MMT. Okay, so this was the last deviation. And you can see that we have those gaps as well, multiple gaps. So 1 there, 2, 3. So price loves to retest those sooner or later. And we also have one at the lower part created today. And also here, the 4 lows are not that important. However, on the downside, we had multiple POCs which have been taken last week. And now to the upside, like there, and to the downside, there is basically no POCs, which I see as magnets. So right now, the main magnets I'm looking at are the gaps above and the one below. So translating that to the chart is also for ETH. The main gaps are in this zone, so price likely trades there sooner or later. And to the downside, it's this zone. And because we had local structure right here, so low, lower, high, low, low, lower, high, low, low, break. This is range demand. I would personally just take it from there. So this is super clean level of demand. Range demand with the more refined zone being here. And then above, this was like also range, break, leaving gaps behind. So price also loves to retrace into those levels. And we can do the same trick again with the volume profile. Then we can see the POC is right there. So also likely that price retrace into that supply. What are the FIBs telling us? Okay, so VWAP from the high is getting tested here, which is pretty interesting. If we pull the volume profile from this high to this low, the POC is right here. So price already flipped above that, making this a pretty strong level of support with little to no volume above here. So you can see a lot of volume at the top range, then a lot of volume here. So then it would look like if price retrace here and shows local signs of accumulation around the POC, then it could be a easy move to the supply because we have little to no resistance in this level. What are the local levels? I would say this is your range high, range low. So this is the new local range we can watch. With underneath the range low, super clean range demand. And on the upside, this high and those gaps resting above. So very similar picture to BTC actually. Yeah, I think we all jealous on Arnold's own garden. I don't know where you live, but if we get a real crisis, then I'll come to your garden for some food. Okay, so I think a lot of if this, then that. So basically just interested in how do we, if we come down, how do we come down with like a structured move and then form like signs of accumulation, then I'm interested in longs. Here, like this could be the high, could be, but I don't like to take trades right here and then just think like if it reverses, then it reverses, because for now my clean invalidation, which I trust, is literally, yeah, maybe you could say here above that, but these are not setups I like to take, because then in order to get 2R, price needs to go to 63, and this is of course it can work for a lot of people. They aim for 1R, also works, but I know that if I wait, let this range develop some more, that then eventually I will get a low time frame model where I take, for example, the long here, stop below that low, and then aim for like a 3R, 4R. The only thing therefore is to have trust that it will happen, and I know it will sooner or later happen. So then I just rather wait for clarity instead of just trying to get in right now, guessing what will happen, because that's a losing strategy. So local range, most local is here, but for now it looks more like structure as well. So basically this, and now it's in the range or in the expansion phase. Alert there, alert here, and then just waiting. And after tomorrow it's Tuesday, so then we already have also more insights into the weekly statistics, and can see like what are the stocks doing. Are they holding here, which would be a sign of strength, or are they further going down already and start closing below the former range low? Then that will also give signals like, what do the markets believe Trump, or is he just clowning again? Countryside in France. Oh, that's even better. I thought it was in I thought you lived in the Netherlands as well. You are from the Netherlands or not? Your name looks Dutch, but yeah, France is amazing, especially the south of France. Yeah, I think most is set. I have main attention at like ETH, BTC. I can quickly look at, yeah, like hype is super clean supply above, and then super clean demand below with this sell side liquidity trail. So I think that the market wants to go for this liquidity trail and then look for reactions into this demand. Right now in the middle of nowhere. I was pre-planning a short this weekend with this being the range, and the VWAP from the high, and there we had tab 1, tab 2, and this was kind of the tab 3 for the Model 2, but I was not watching the charts. I was away this weekend in south of Netherlands, so I was not watching the charts. Then I just watched BTC, so I totally missed this potential setup. Sol, basically a replica of ETH. Goedemiddag. And kan ik je van dienst zijn? And Tao is now approaching the supply of this range, where this is potentially tab 1, tab 2, and if you see weakness right here, then you can look for like a 3 tab for Model 2, but for now how price is moving up, it could also just go for a Model 1 or just continue the high time frame trend, because should not forget that this is overall looking super strong. So this could just be a higher low, just an uptrend. So that's why it's always important to just monitor how it looks, but not every range is a distribution range. What is? So I'm gonna look, do we have a more refined supply zone to watch? This wick to there. Then that is where five minutes. Let's see. Yeah, so that's basically like you have to these two candles buy to sell, selling taking over, leaving an imbalance. So this is the more refined supply. So likely that price trades into that level. So an alert there and then alerts here. And beside that, all eyes on BTC and mainly just not forcing things when it's not clear. This could just go both ways, in my opinion. I live for 80% in France, a little less threat to Netherlands and finding deeper. Oh, yeah, that's the dream life, to eventually get out of this country. And then especially to have an own garden and stuff. It's amazing. I think there are no questions that I'm gonna close the stream. Basically just waiting for the market to develop. Last week we had some super nice trades again, and eventually they will come again. Also here we had potentially this 1, 2, 3. Did not play it, but eventually they will come again. Just not in the moment. Oh, Kijos, yeah. I did not know you were from Cape Town. Cape Town, I was there last year. It was amazing. So I will definitely, it's one of my dreams to get a place there. To be there during the winters, at least. Would be amazing. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Then I'll see you guys in the Discord and during the other streams this week. Was a pleasure again.